Hi, and welcome to another PlayMaker tutorial. In this one, we're going to take a look at the Interpolate action and how powerful it is. Before I learned about the Interpolate action, I was using things like tween and move to and stuff like that. But the Interpolate action is a lot more lightweight and it can do a lot of powerful things. So we're going to take a look. So right now, I'm just in a default sample scene. And what I'm going to do is I am going to start by creating a plane, and we're going to build some things, and then we're going to put some FSMs on them and see what Interpolate can do. So I'm going to start out by just creating a plane. I mean, I could also create a cube and just make it big. And then I'm going to create some cubes to just build some doorways and some other things. So I'm going to pause the video while I do that, and we'll jump back in. All right, so we're going to resume again real quick because I want to show you a little trick. It's a Unity tip, not a PlayMaker tip. And especially if you're using assets from the asset store, or not even assets from the asset store, but if you're just using either Pro Builder in Unity, maybe I'll do a different tutorial on that, or if you're just using just 3D shapes or 2D shapes from Unity, sometimes it can be frustrating getting things to lock together. And this isn't on by default, but you might want to turn snapping on by default. And the way that you do that is you click this little grid snapping icon on, but you can't do it if it's set to local rotation. So if you switch it to global rotation, you can then turn on grid snapping, and that'll then have your objects move on a grid snap. It makes it a lot easier to snap your objects together. All right, I'm going to go ahead and build our scene. One more comment real quick. One thing you'll want to do is, in order for snapping to work well, is when you bring in a new object, you want to zero out its position. So right now you can't see my objects because they're over here in the zero space. So I'm going to get my plane. I'm going to go ahead and zero it out, move it to the zero position. All right, we'll go ahead and move over here. And then I also have all of my 3 cubes I have so far in the zero position. That'll make snapping work a little bit better. All right, my snapping's not working great for me right now because I'm using game objects that I've changed the scales of. So I'm just going to show another little tip you can do whenever snapping's not working for you. Even if you have snapping turned on, you can grab one of your game objects. And if you hold the V shortcut key and you grab one of your corners, if you want to line it up with another corner, you can do that. So I'm going to grab this little vertex corner here. I'm still holding down the V key. I'm going to click with my mouse, and I'm going to drag it until it snaps onto this post here. All right, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And what I'm doing right now is I'm making just a little door frame. All right, so you can see I'm building a little door frame here. And this guy, I'm going to do the same thing with this little inner vertex if I can see it right. Yeah, I'm there. All right, I'm there. All right, and I'm going to change the size of this bad boy to here. All right, so what I have now is I have, I'm going to move it over just a little bit. And, doors aren't super flush, so I'm just going to pull that down a little bit. And I think that's going through the floor, but we'll pull it up a bit because doors should have some airspace around them. All right, so that doesn't look like it doesn't look like any standard door that you'd see in a house, but it's going to work for my purposes here. All right, so let's organize our hierarchy just a little bit, and I'm going to start on this guy, and I'm going to make this, I'm going to put an empty game object here just because I want one on the left-hand side to hold everything. Just that's where I want it, because that's where my pivot point will be. And I'm just going to call this door. And then I'm going to create another empty, just because I'm going to be super organized. I'm going to call this door frame. And so really this cube, and this cube, which don't look like cubes anymore, those are my door frame. All right. And then this is put that in there. This is my actual swinging door. All right. Yeah. So now if I click to my move tool, if I click on door, oh, it's centered. If I go to switch to pivot point, you can see now that my door pivot point's on the left. That's just where I want it. Typically, I personally like my pivot points down on the bottom. You can change game objects pivot points when you're modeling outside of Unity in your modeling tool like Blender. But you can also do it inside Unity itself by using a tool called Pro Builder. But I think I'll save that for a different tutorial. For now, I'm just going to live with what I got going on here. But I'm going to go ahead just to make it a little bit easier for us to see. I want to add some materials, and so I'm actually going to grab a great free material pack from the Unity Asset Store that's great for prototyping. Now, in a previous tutorial, when I did my tips and tricks video, I showed how in this version of Unity, 219.4.4 or 0.4F, whatever, you can get to the asset store in here. But in all future versions of Unity, and in this one, you can just use the package manager. And actually, in newer versions of Unity, they don't even have the asset store built in. You have to use the package manager. But I can come in here into the package manager, and I can find just my assets. And so I can search all the assets that I've purchased from the asset store. I've got a lot of great ones in here. There's been a lot of great sales over the past year. I got tons of stuff. But I'm just going to search Proto. And here we have Gridbox prototype materials. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to scroll down. We're going to download those bad boys and import those bad boys. And import those bad boys. All right, so those have been imported. I'm going to close my package manager. And I'm going to go into my project. And I'm going to... Sometimes Unity does this, and I can't grab the window to resize it. And I have to like click other places. There it goes. All right. Is it third party? Yeah, third party, Gridbox prototype materials, resources, materials. Ooh, a skybox. Ooh, there's like, we could go gray. I was thinking about switching out the skyboxes because it was, the Unity skybox is just ugly to me. The skybox golden. No, let's just go homogeneous. I like that. Ooh, and we can even change the color. We'll just leave the color gray for now. Let's go back to materials, and you'll see why this is so cool. We can go to prototype grid, and let's see, what do we want our ground? Ooh, do we really want this to pop? Do we want to go like, bam? Yeah, that's kind of nice. And then let's do, is there a pink? Pink would have been fun. Let's do orange and black. There we have our door be orange. And you know what, yellow, and that, this part's not even important. Let's go with a blue. And I'll just make the door frame all a different color too. All right. So now we have this much easier to see area about what's going on. I think I might just turn off lighting. Nah, that makes it look ugly. We'll just leave lighting on. Maybe change the rotation of it. There we go. The light's more on the door now, a little bit easier to see. All right, so what we're going to do now is I want to make this door rotate. So there's lots of different ways to do this, but I'm just going to jump in and teach you what Interpolate is. So let's go ahead and on this swinging door, I'm just going to add an FSM, and I'm going to call this FSM open door. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and call this state open door because we're just going to make it run. I'm not going to show you how to use a key or anything. That's other logic you've probably already figured out, or we'll do in a different tutorial. So we just want to open this door. And so how would we open this door? All right, without even using PlayMaker, if we just want to make this door rotate, let's figure out how we would do that in Unity. So I have the swinging door, and I can just come here and I can just rotate on the y-axis. All right, I can show you another little tip here because the pivot point for this game object is in the center. We have more of a revolving door versus a swinging door. And hey, maybe that's what you want, but most likely it's not. So how do we fix that? How do we make it to where it rotates on the hinge? Well, we need to create a hinge point. And that's relatively easy to do. You just do it with an empty game object. So I'm just going to go on the swinging door. I'm going to right click on it. And I'm going to create an empty game object. And I'm just going to call this the hinge. And let's just go forward perspective here. Zoom in. And let's just move the hinge to the left side there. But now I want the door has to be connected to the hinge, just like in real life, right? The door is going to hang on your hinges, and then they can rotate with the hinge. So I'm going to go ahead and now move the hinge up, and then I'm going to put the swinging door in the hinge. But I'm not going to be rotating the door. I'm going to be rotating the hinges. So I'm going to get rid of the FSM that I've created on the swinging door. All right, so now if I go to my hinge, and let's change our perspective just to make it more exciting. All right, if I go to my hinge now, and I rotate on the Y, there, now we have a rotating door. So how do we create an FSM to do that? All right, let's zero that out. And let's add an FSM to the hinge, which you can right-click in the PlayMaker window and add FSM. And again, we're going to call this open door. Maybe you call it rotate hinge, but most likely open door. Open door. And we're going to put in the description, use Interpolate to set rotation. All right, so this is exactly what we're going to do. And the FSM open door, we're going to call this open door in the description too. I don't know. Door using Interpolate and set rotation. All right. Like I mentioned in my tips and tricks video, use as many descriptions and comments as you can possibly do. All right, so we have our first state here, open door, and we're just going to make it on play. The door is just going to open. So in the state window, okay, when you have a state selected, you can just double click and it'll open up your actions window. And so we want to find Interpolate, float Interpolate. Okay, this is such a powerful little action. All right, now your mode, linear is just going to do it all in a steady flow. If you do ease in and out, it's going to start interpolating the float at a slower rate, then it's going to go to its normal rate, and then at the end, it's going to slow down on its rate that it changes the float. So what float interpolate is doing is you pick a starting float, which is a number, and an ending float, another number, and it's going to, over time you designate, increase that float variable. So our from float is going to be our closed rotation of the hinge, so 0. But now let's see where our open rotation would be. How far do we want this door to rotate? You know, maybe we want it to 100 degrees. All right, but it's actually, if you notice, it's minus 100. So when you're dealing with negative numbers, make sure that your starting float is also negative. Otherwise, whenever you close the door, it's really your starting one's not as important, but let's just go ahead and make it a negative number. So I'm going to say negative 0.01. Okay, that's close enough to 0. In fact, I can come over here and go ahead and start negative 0.01. All right, and let's say we want it to float to a negative 100. And let's do it in 3 seconds so it's not just going wham. All right, and we want to store this as rotation float. Right, and the format of your variables don't really. I've even seen people put spaces in their variable names, which is just weird. But you could do it. PlayMaker lets you, but I don't put spaces. And so when it's done, we're just going to say close the door. All right. So we need to have this finish event go somewhere. So I'm going to hold down the control key, and I'm going to go ahead and create a state. And we're just going to call this, I forgot I changed those defaults. We're going to call this state closed door. And we're going to use Interpolate to set rotation and close the door. All right, I'm trying to create good habits here and put good notes. Set rotation and open the door. All right, so the reason I said to use a negative number, because if you're going to be doing negatives, both numbers need to be negative. Otherwise, when you close the door, okay, so if we go from 0 to negative 100, when we try to go from negative to 100 back to 0, it's not going to go that way. It's going to go the other way around. So that's why we want it to go back to the negative number. So what we could even do is I could just delete that. I can just copy this state. I could paste this state, and I'm right-clicking on these states. And now I will connect it, and I'm going to change this back to new event. I'm going to have it just open door. So it's just going to open, close, open, close. All right. And why are you upset? Oh, because I also still have closed door. So I'm going to right-click on that and delete that transition. All right, so now I'm going to go from minus 100 to minus 0.01. Now, if the door is opening the other direction, like if the door is opening towards where my position is now, if it's opening to a positive 100, then I could just leave it 0 to a positive 100, 0 to a positive 100, 100 to a positive 0, and that would be fine. But since I need to use a negative number, I need to keep them both negative, and I'm just going to go ahead and set it for negative 0.01. All right, so if I've done everything correctly here, which I'm pretty sure I have, we should be able to hit play, and we will see the door open, and then we will see the door close, and then the door open, and then the door close, and over and over and over again. So here we go, state 1. Oh, all we did was we're creating the numbers. Okay, so the float is increasing, but we didn't tell the door to do anything yet. All right, so you can see it's just taking its time, and it's going from negative 0.01 to negative 100, then back to negative 0.01. But you can see our FSM is doing what we told it to do. So what we need to do now is something with the float. So we need to set the door's rotation. So I'm going to double click in the action browser and do set rotation. Now, you might be think you would just want to use the rotate action. Well, no, what the rotate action does is you can actually rotate something a certain number of degrees over time. But you just can't be as precise as you like with that. Interpolate is just going to make it so much easier. I've had so many headaches using rotation to open doors. This is the way to do it. Float, interpolate, set rotation. All right. So we want to set our rotation, and we want to do it every frame. But our door could be anywhere in the world, and we don't want to use the world's position. We want our rotation to be on its local space, its self space. When you look at something in the inspector, these numbers you see is its self, where it thinks it is in position to the world, not where the world thinks the object is in position to the world. So we're just going to do this to the owner, and we're only going to rotate on the Y, and we're going to use our rotation float variable that we created. And we're going to do it in our self space, and we're doing it every frame, because if we didn't do it every frame, it's going to just set the rotation to a negative 0.01 in the first frame and then stop. So we need to do it every frame, because every frame this float is increasing. And so now I can just copy this set rotation action, and I can come over here and paste it into the this should be our door close state, right? Closed door. And open, we can even make this a better visual, and we can go green for open, and we can set color. Again, I'm right clicking here, red for closed. All right, so now the door should open and close. All right, silly mistake I made earlier. Let's see what happens. There it goes, really slow open, and then the same speed closed. All right, there it goes. So that is one way we can use interpolate, but it could be used for many things and not just opening and closing doors. Let's set something else up and see what else interpolate could do. All right, so let's just make something go through the door. All right, so I'm going to use the swinging door so that it'll be centered, and I'm just going to create a capsule. Ugh, okay. But now that it's at that position, I'm going to move it out of the door. And we're going to reset my scales to 1, reset my rotation to 0, and my position is where I want it to be. All right, so we're going to do this, and you know what? I don't want it that big. Let's make it 0.25. And let's rotate it on the Z, I think, 90. Boom. All right. I want to see its local. I think I want to rotate this 90. Nope, I want to rotate. What I'm trying to do is its forward direction is the Z-axis. So I want to make sure it's pointing towards the door. And so now I want to rotate 90. No matter what I do, it's not going to work. Okay. No matter what I do, I can't get the Z direction pointed here. This is fine. Ooh, yes, I could. I could do that. All right, so let's zero out the rotations. All right, we're going to create an empty. All right, and then I move it over here. And we're going to call this empty for capsule. And I'm on my local, so I want to rotate this minus 90. All right, so that's already there. And so now I can put the capsule in here, and I can make my capsule look how I want it. So we can rotate the z-axis 90. All right, so now moving it forward, it's going to look like a little bullet. All right, very cool. All right, so that's the beauty of having empty game objects. When you have something that's going to be rotated weird, put it inside an empty game object, and you can have your empty game object facing where you want it to be. All right, well, let's give this capsule a little material. So we'll go back to our project. I don't know, what should our bullet color be? I want something more popping. I guess we could just keep it white. I mean, it's already kind of white. We'll leave it white. All right. So I don't know, how do we want this thing to move? Let's go ahead and add an FSM. Okay, this is something from the tips and tricks. Let's send an event. Let's do, this is gonna be a bit ugly. Let's call this just its initiation state. And then we're going to make a new one, and we're going to call this go through door. And let's make an event that says shoot. And let's make it a global event, and we're going to do a global transition called shoot. All right, so in this state, we want to, we're going to interpolate. All right, so we're going to interpolate from its current position, and we want to move it from here to through the door and then back. All right, so let's see, we're at, let's make this easy. Let's just say we're at 2.5 now, and then we want to go to, what's 5 look like? Whoa, not 5, how about minus 2.5? Yeah, so we're going to go from 2.5 to minus 2.5. So let's interpolate. And we want to start at 2.5, and we're going to go to minus 2.5. And let's do it in a second, and we're going to store this as our shoot float. And when we finish, let's call this go back. All right, and so we're going to come and create a new state. I'm holding the control key and dragging out. And let's go back. Oh, this one is going to shoot bullet through door. And then in our go back state, we're going to go back, shoot bullet back where we came. All right, so we need to set position. All right, so we used set rotation before. Now we're going to use set position. We're going to use our empty for capsule game object that we're in. And this time we're going to use the X? Was it the X? Weird. I could have sworn that would have been the Z-axis position. That's very weird. Oh well, it says it's X. We're going with X. Am I getting confused from Blender? Maybe I'm getting confused from Blender. Because I would have thought going this way. Oh, it's because we're on local. So world space Z is that way. Yeah. All right, so we are going to be moving. I could have done this without putting an empty whatever, but we're doing it this way. All right, so we're going to set position self Z. Yeah, self Z. It's going to be weird. We could do world space. Let's do world space. It's going to be easier. World space X. Oh yeah, variable. Just set it for shoot float. And then we're just going to copy these actions. Right-clicking again, pasting these actions, and we're just going to switch this. 2.5, no, minus 2.5, 2.5. And no finish event here. I'm not sure if that's going to work. All right, let's go back to our door. And let's say at the start of the closed door event. Let's do send event. It's going to be ugly, but it'll still show you what's happening. I didn't go to the top, so I'm going to right click on it and move action to top. Send event, game object FSM, specify game object, empty for capsule, FSM name. Ooh, I didn't name the FSM, naughty me. And we're going to send the event shoot, no delay, just do it. All right, so what should happen then is the door is going to open. When it finishes its open door state, it's going to go to the closed door state. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to send the event to the empty for capsule of shoot, in which case it should go through the door in a second and then come back through the door. But it's going to go through the closed door at some point because of the timing of it. But you'll still get an idea of what this is supposed to do because it's going to be closing the same time it's going through. All right, but let's watch it happen. All right, so let's go, I don't know, like this. Here we go. So a mixture of interpolate and some send events. So there it goes, open, it's all the way open, shoot. Huh. Oh, did you see what I did wrong? See if you can figure it out. Do you see what I did wrong here based on when we did rotation? What we did wrong, well, what I did wrong, is I forgot to check every frame. All right, we need to set this position every frame, or it's just going to change its position each time. All right, let's see what happens now. Open. There it went, and it went, ooh, did it beat the door? I went through the door. All right, but you get the idea. Okay, so you can use Interpolate for so many different things. If you've tried it out, or if you've already known about interpolation, if you used it for different things, feel free to tell us in the comments what else you've used Interpolate for. But if you didn't use Interpolate before, you at least now know how to use it to open a door or to move a projectile. All right, until next time, I'm Philip, and if you have any suggestions for tutorials, please put them in the comments, and I'll be happy to do them. Check out the description for the Discord link to my Discord if you want to chat live in my Discord. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next video.